Hi, my name is Guido Walter, and I want to share with you how I found a way out of my own suffering from neurodermatitis. It's all about the question, what is causing it, why do I have neurodermatitis, and what can I do to get out of it? In 2002, I became very ill, and one of the symptoms I was diagnosed with was neurodermatitis. And about 1 year into the ordeal, the symptoms were getting bigger and stronger, and the treatments that I was receiving didn't seem to change or help the problem in any way. So I stopped all the treatments altogether, and I tried out many different natural alternative ways to deal with the problem, but it didn't work. In the end, the solution came by itself, as I was so exhausted and couldn't sleep anymore, and itching and scratching all day long, spent about 1 year in bed. And when my ego crashed, when it was like my operating system reset itself and my thinking completely changed, and within a few months, after finding out more about what was causing it, became very, very clear to me that the whole problem of neurodermatitis is caused by thinking, by resistance, by not liking what was going on, by rejecting your own life. And I will get into this in more detail. Let me explain to you in detail what I've learned in the last 12 years about neurodermatitis. Before I became ill, I was very successful. I'm an engineer. I have a master's degree in engineering. I traveled all over the world. I speak 3 languages, and I was, what everybody would say, quite successful. I had a nice house. I have 2 beautiful daughters. I had a very interesting job. I worked with really amazing companies all over the world. Yet at the same time, in spite of having everything that you think you need to be happy, I wasn't very happy on the inside. I was always looking for fulfillment. I was looking for more success. And in spite of all the efforts that I did, my successes were always temporary, and it seemed that I could never really hold on to it, and I couldn't really enjoy what I had. I was constantly trying to change, to improve, to get better, to work harder, to get more. And in a way, it is very similar to the problem of having neurodermatitis. There's a lot of wanting. There's wanting to change, there's wanting to heal, there's wanting to get out of this problem, and we think a lot about it. We try everything to get out of it. We look for solutions, read, search, think, ask. But in the end, all this struggle to find a solution to this problem makes the problem even stronger. It creates exactly the opposite of what you're looking for. And that is one of the things which is very much misunderstood, is the concept of wanting. So wanting comes from a very deep feeling, for example, of being rejected, of not being loved, or not being successful enough. So this feeling is emotional, and it creates a feeling of lack, of feeling incomplete. And since we don't really know how to deal with emotional feelings of lack, of emotional perceived feelings of lack, we begin to work harder and try harder and push. And of course, that's never going to work. There's never going to be a solution to neurodermatitis or to wanting by just working harder or by trying to use pills. It's just not going to happen, because, as I said, the initial problem is a feeling of lack, of feeling incomplete, of feeling unhappy, and that needs to be addressed in order to stop the symptom. In my opinion, neurodermatitis is not the problem, it's a symptom. It's a symptom of being unhappy, of rejection, of wanting more. And of course, when you have neurodermatitis, it's a horrible, torturous experience that is very, very difficult to get out of, just because we are not aware of how we are creating it, of how we are doing it. But it's basically a problem of a runaway mind, of a mind that is totally out of control, that is totally without direction and can't really see what it's doing. And specifically, there's 3 problems that lead to the problem of neurodermatitis. Number 1 is there's a problem that nobody has an answer to. So you're constantly trying to figure out, even though your mind doesn't know, you ask yourself day and night, what can I do? How do I end this? You look on Google, you ask other people, you ask doctors, but you never get an answer. And so this question, asking your own mind, leads to your mind always being busy, and you can't sleep, and you're thinking all the time, which leads to being disconnected from your feelings and from reality. The next problem that is very obvious when you understand the dynamic is not having an answer leads to deep disapproval. So you doubt yourself, you disapprove of yourself, you think bad about yourself. It undermines your happiness, it undermines your self-esteem. And of course, the pain and the itching also adds tremendous frustration and anger. And when you scratch yourself, maybe you have noticed that when you're done scratching, when the itch stops, that you have this very strange feeling of satisfaction. And that happens when you express the anger and frustration against yourself, then it feels good, because then the anger is, in a way, you let go of it. But all this disapproving is, number 1, is mentally not liking yourself, not liking what's going on, even though your skin is part of yourself. So, and the more you dislike it, the more you're hurting yourself emotionally. And in the end, this very deep negative energy inside yourself leads to expressing the anger against yourself. That's the ultimate anger, is scratching, is beating yourself up, making yourself bleed. But it's really just a very natural process of basically instructing your mind to hate yourself. And you're doing it. And it's not helping one bit. And the third problem is, which this tremendous resistance leads to constantly thinking about what you don't want, is constantly thinking about the problem and having your awareness on the problem itself. And that also leads to the neurodermatitis periodically getting, sometimes it gets a little bit less when you give up the search, when you think less about it, then it becomes better. But as soon as you try to go back to force a solution to make it go away, that again builds up negativity. So it goes around and around and around, it never ends, by your thinking, by your resistance against yourself. And the way out of this is learning how the mind works and using the 3 freedoms. Number 1, we have the first freedom is to love. The second freedom is to decide. And the third freedom is to direct your awareness. And it might sound very strange, but let me explain the unfreedom. So the automatic behavior that comes from the ego. So the first one, I talked about the freedom to love. When you don't discriminate, when you don't understand what's going on, and you have something that bothers you, then it's a typical ego reaction. You attack, you hate, you get frustrated. But you have the freedom to love. your skin, no matter what's going on. Number 2, the freedom to make a decision. And as long as we don't understand this freedom, then you always fall into the trap. Before the itch comes, before you feel this aura that the itch is going to happen within a couple of minutes, then immediately we say no, we decide. You don't even know, but you decide to resist. You don't like it, you say no. And every time you say no, then the mind does exactly that, what you resist. Whatever you resist becomes stronger, and you create it. So instead of saying no, we can begin to say, make a decision, I'm not going to resist, I'm saying yes. And I'm also use the power to come up with new decisions, and I decide not to hate, not to be frustrated. And the third freedom is the ability to direct your awareness. You can direct your awareness anywhere you want. You can direct it on nice experiences on the outside. You can direct it on positive things, on positive plans, on hobbies. Or if you don't understand this freedom, then your awareness, like gravity, is always drawn back into the problem, which leads to expanding the problem. Those 3 abilities, if you practice, and letting go, which comes from using those abilities, leads to emptying yourself out and feeling happy and healthy again and fulfilled, which leads to the problem disappearing. I want to say very clearly, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a health professional, and I do not guarantee any results. The results, they can only be produced by you, but I can show you a way out of this. I can show you what helped me to end this nightmare, this daymare, this constant exhausting struggle with yourself, with your thoughts, with your thinking, with the neurodermatitis issue. I can show you the steps that I've been teaching to people for the last 8 years, the steps that help me end the problem, and not only end the problems, it also helped me to discover who I am, to discover what the mind is, to understand the mind, to understand nature, to understand myself, to understand life, the universe, and to set me free from this burden that the mind creates in every person, the burden of wanting, the burden of not being happy with what is, of not being happy with this moment, of always wanting to change, of wanting more. No matter what you have, the mind will never be satisfied, it always wants more. And those are the typical issues that lead to this problem of neurodermatitis. And what I've learned from looking at myself, from working with many people, that typically prior to the neurodermatitis starting, there is most likely there was a change in your life. It can be something related to a relationship, job, moving. But there was some change which started off the reaction in your skin. The second thing that I find that is common with people who have neurodermatitis is that people are typically perfectionists. They have they're very ambitious, and they don't like to be criticized, rejected, or to make a mistake. They want to be perfect. And the third thing is that they're not really happy, that there's this feeling of being rejected, of not being loved or accepted by other people. And so you can be at home with your family and still feel disconnected, feel separate from them. Everybody is happy, but I'm not happy. And it might be different for you, but that's what I've noticed, that what's common for most people. And there is a way out of this, and it doesn't matter to me if you decide to work with me. I give 2 free sessions, or if you would rather work with somebody else. But I hope that this opens your eyes a little bit and leads you to looking for a solution on your inside instead of running around and constantly searching and looking in the wrong area. I do offer 2 free sessions where you can experience the process that I'm offering. It's totally complimentary, and even if you don't like it, or if you don't want to continue, that's totally up to you. It's only my job to show you what I've found, and you can do with it whatever you want. And you might also ask yourself, how can it be that there are so many millions of people suffering from neurodermatitis, and all the research that's being done and all the scientific experiments, and that even if you had all the money in the world, if you could assemble all the specialists in the world to the knowledge that's available, has not come up with a solution to this problem, because it doesn't exist, because it's on a level which is very different from the physical body, from nervous system, from everything that's involved. And when you address that problem, who you are, your happiness, and also most of all the cause of your unhappiness, when you address that, that's where the solution is. And there's many cases where neurodermatitis is just light. It's maybe just your hand or a small part of your body, but there's also very, very severe cases like I was. And in the end, like I said, it was all I saw within minutes. When my mind shifted, when my ego collapsed from all the pressure that I was creating, it was like the light got switched on and the suffering stopped immediately. So I hope this was helpful, and if you have more questions, call me anytime, send me an email, or use this service application, contact me. I'm by my computer very often, and talk to me. I'm happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you very much.